So I have made a video about vintage glassware and dinnerware before, but I just wanted to make another one because I was actually out at Salvation Army, which is a thrift store, uh, and I've just found a whole bunch of stuff. I didn't buy anything because we're already, stocked up on vintage stuff, but I just want to show you how easy it was to get into vintage dinnerware for relatively cheap. Actually cheaper than you're going to rent the items for. Most things at a Salvation Army or thrift store will be 50 cents to $1 a piece, and you can rent things out for $1.25, $1.50 a piece. So your first rental, you're making your money back on the items. And it's an easy way, not expensive way to get into starting to do rentals fairly cheaply. Not every market wants vintage stuff, but it's easy to get into. So let me show you, what I did at Salvation Army. So we call it vintage, but it's more like vintage mismatch because not everything is going to be an actual vintage piece. Like this piece right here is a newer piece, but it looks vintage, it looks cool, it's mismatched, it will look cool amongst a whole bunch of other wine glasses. Here's a bunch of plates, saucers, there's just so much stuff here, bowls. This one is not vintage, but picking up a few of these and putting them in the mix, these are really cool plates. I like those. Just more and more stuff, vintage floral patterns. Many things you find are actually going to have floral patterns on it. I don't know why. I guess that was the style when these were being made. But a lot of it has floral patterns, but it all looks good. And as long as you get a good mix. This piece right here, I like this. If there was two of them, this could be for the bride and groom. There's only one. So I like these kind of plates a lot. They got a decorative edge with like holes in them. They're kind of unique. See, there's just tons of stuff at thrift stores because no one wants these. These would be like a small wine glass, not going to have 50 of them, but like a few mixed in is fine. They always have lots of vases. This isn't actually a crystal one. It's not colored or anything, but it's, it's glass and it's cut. It looks really good. And below it's, these were wine glasses. This green one, not vintage, but it would be cool among all the vintage and mismatched stuff. You take the yellow one, that green one, this blue one, the crystal ones, and mix them all together. Each table has a mix of a whole bunch where none are matching. It looks really cool. These little wine glasses, not vintage, but clear top, blue base would look cool with the one that's all blue. There's just so much stuff at these places. Then they usually have a lot of vases. This one actually looks vintage. For centerpieces, flowers, this piece for a candle. There's just so much stuff that you can get for less than $1 here. This would be good for like candies. This would be good for, cupcakes or half moon cookies or anything. There's just so much stuff that people are getting rid of that would be good for a wedding, and you could rent them out multiple times. Another thing back there for a candy dish. Those other glasses, I like those. They're kind of smoky. Now over to the clear section. This may be small, but it still works as a champagne glass. It's got a nice flute and a nice base. Rocks glasses, we don't ever get into vintage rocks glasses because you just can't find that many of them. We stick with champagne, wine, and water goblets. But right here, I just happen to find a score of about 6 of them, but I'm not going to get into that. We're just going to stick with the wine, champagne, and water goblets. This is just to show you, like, this whole wall can be vintage stuff. So yeah, as you can see, you go to a thrift store, you're going to be able to find lots of things. You're going to have to take a lot of visits to multiple thrift stores, with time in between. But you'll be able to find a bunch of stuff that you can then start renting out the very next season for more money than you paid for most of them. You can also go to garage sales and get things for even cheaper. Estate sales, the last day of an estate sale, they're getting rid of the china and glassware really cheap. The first day, they're always asking like $500 because this is such a great set. But what they don't realize is, young people don't want that stuff anymore. They don't care about having a formal place settings for guests to come over and eat. So no one's buying it. So the last day of the estate sale, it's still all there and you can get it for cheap, real cheap. There's lots of places you can get this stuff. And the sucky thing is though, until you have a commercial dishwasher, you're going to be doing it by hand, but you're going to be making so much money from a very little investment. But do keep in mind that this is not for every single market. Not everywhere is going to want vintage stuff. You know, do some research, see if there's other people in your area offering this, and if they are, then you can think about doing it. Put some feelers out, make a web page or a free web page or a Facebook page, and see if there's any biters, any interest. And you know, if people do call for it for a certain date and you don't have any of it yet, you can just say, I'm sorry, I'm all booked up for that date. But at least you know there's some interest, and then you can start gathering these things up. And you don't have to just do the vintage dinnerware, glassware. You can do the vases, you can do the candy dishes, you can do like a whole table setting, centerpieces and everything, all from stuff that you're sourcing at a thrift store, garage sales, and estate sales. It's a very cheap way to get into everything. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on tents, tables, and chairs. You could start with just stuff that's at a thrift store. Anyways, thanks for watching.